Hello everyone. Today, we will delve into one of Japan's most controversial cases, which took place in the town of Shimizu, a significant port and industrial city in Shizuoka Prefecture, Japan. A man accidentally discovered that his neighbor's house was on fire and immediately reported it to the fire department. Although the fire was eventually extinguished, further police investigation uncovered several crucial clues, all pointing to one person. But is this person really the culprit? Let's find out together. The story involves a family of 5 living in Shimizu. Tetsuo, 41, worked at an electronic component factory located 50 meters from their home. Chiko, 38, was a housewife. They had 3 children, their eldest daughter, Akiko, 19, who had moved out, their second daughter, Fushiko, 17, who was in high school, and their son, Yaichiro, 14, who was in middle school. At 1:50 a.m. on June 30th, 1966, a man, while going to the bathroom, suddenly heard noise from his neighbor's house. Initially, he thought it was a cat, but upon stepping outside, he saw flames and smoke. He immediately raised an alarm and activated the fire alarm. Neighbors also woke up and rushed out to check. By this time, the house was already engulfed in thick black smoke and intense flames. Quickly, many people ran out to help extinguish the fire. By 2:10 a.m., when the fire department arrived, the fire had grown significantly, with black smoke continuously rising. Many neighbors and people from the nearby factory tried to rescue the occupants, but due to the house being made of wood and the high temperature, they couldn't get far inside. After 20 minutes, the firefighters managed to put out the fire. However, the house was completely destroyed. Fortunately, the fire did not spread to neighboring houses. Local police also arrived at the scene, cordoning off the area for investigation. However, due to the intense fire, much of the evidence at the scene was destroyed. Inside the house, Chiko and her son Yaichiro were found huddled in the bedroom. Fushiko was in another bedroom with a piano, and Tetsuo, 41, was lying in the hallway, leading to the back door on the ground floor. All 4 family members were burnt to death. None survived. It was known that their eldest daughter, Akiko, 19, who lived separately, had returned to Shimizu on the day of the fire. But since it was late, she stayed at her grandfather's house, a decision that saved her life. Inside the house, police found 2 cloth bags, one with bloodstains, known to be where Tetsuo kept his worker's salary of 200,000 yen. However, when checked, both bags were empty. The forensic examination concluded that the victims had injuries in critical areas like the chest and neck. Tetsuo and Fushiko were stabbed to death, while Chiko and Yaichiro died from the fire. Additionally, in Fushiko's room, police found a small knife without a sheath, 12 centimeters long. In the living room, they also discovered a burnt black raincoat with the knife sheath in its pocket. Clearly, this was not an accidental fire, but a deliberate arson to cover up a murder. The incident occurred on the 30th, the payday for the Wizen Company employees. Their salaries were temporarily kept at Tetsuo's house, but after the fire, the money was gone, even though no other personal belongings were stolen. Police suspected an employee of the Wizen Company was involved in the crime because they found an 18-liter gasoline canister at the company's warehouse, with 6 liters missing. The forensic results showed that the gasoline matched the type used in the crime. After obtaining these results, police conducted a thorough search of the Wizen factory. Outside the factory, in a drainage ditch, they found a blood-stained handkerchief. On the second floor, in an employee dormitory room, they discovered a blue and white striped pajamas belonging to Kota, 30, a former professional boxer who worked at the factory after retiring. The pajamas had various bloodstains, and Kota's left middle finger was injured, which he claimed was due to helping put out the fire. The police then sent the handkerchief, pajamas, and the cloth bags found earlier for forensic analysis. However, in 1966, forensic technology was not advanced, and there was no DNA technology, only blood group testing. According to the results, the handkerchief found outside the factory had bloodstains of blood groups A and AB. On Kota's pajamas, they also found blood groups A and AB. This matched the blood groups of Tetsuo, who was Group A, Chiko, who was Group B, and Yaichiro, who was Group AB. The night before the incident, Kota and his roommate watched a TV show together. Afterward, the roommate went to sleep and woke up at 2 a.m. when he heard the fire alarm, unaware of what had happened during that time. After 2 weeks of investigation and collecting sufficient evidence, the police arrested Kota. A medical examination revealed that Kota had a 4 centimeters long and 1 centimeter wide wound on the middle finger of his left hand, identified as a wound caused by a sharp object. Additionally, he had other injuries, such as a 1.5 centimeters long scar on his right shoulder. Kota was born in 1936 in the Sonogi area of Shizuoka Prefecture in western Japan, and grew up in a well-off family with 6 siblings. As a child, he was loved by his parents and siblings. After graduating from high school, Kota did not continue his studies, but became an amateur boxer. At 21, he was invited to participate in a boxing tournament organized by Shizuoka. 2 years later, Kota became a professional boxer. He left his hometown and moved to Tokyo, joining the Fuji Boxing Club. In 29 professional matches, he achieved 16 wins, 10 losses, and 3 draws, becoming the 6th-ranked lightweight boxer in the country. In his second year as a professional boxer, Kota participated in 19 professional matches in 1 year, setting a record for the most matches in Japan. Boxing brought Kota glory and wealth, but also caused irreparable damage to his body. At 25, Kota had to stay home to rest due to health issues, and as his performance declined, he decided to retire. With the money he had saved from boxing, Kota, along with his girlfriend, opened a bar. Shortly after, he married his girlfriend, and they had a son, starting a new life. However, unfortunately, Kota became addicted to gambling, often not coming home, leaving his wife to take care of their child and manage the bar alone, causing her to feel exhausted both physically and mentally. Despite his wife's repeated pleas, Kota did not listen and even assaulted her. Eventually, she could no longer endure it and decided to divorce him. Not long after, the bar had to close due to poor business performance. It was only then that Kota realized what his wife had endured and decided to quit gambling. At 29, Kota and his son started a new life. From Tokyo, Kota returned to his hometown in Jinjiangsu, Liaojia County. He entrusted his son to his mother's care. Then, Kota moved to Qingshui Town, Jinjiangzhou, to look for work. Through a friend's introduction, Kota got a job at a medical equipment manufacturing plant. To everyone, Kota's life seemed to be going well. He had started a new chapter. However, no one expected that Kota would be the one to set fire and murder the entire family of 4. During the interrogation, Kota denied the bloodstains on his clothes and claimed that the injury on his left index finger was from participating in extinguishing the fire. However, the police did not believe Kota. They conducted 19 days of continuous interrogation, averaging more than 12 hours each day. During this time, Kota was only allowed to meet his lawyer 3 times, each for no more than 15 minutes. Since Kota refused to confess, the police resorted to harsh measures to exert pressure. During this time, Kota endured unprecedented physiological and psychological pressure. He felt immense suffering, and his mental state collapsed. After 19 days of continuous interrogation, Kota signed a confession, admitting to the arson and murder of the Tetsuo family of 4. He confessed that the murder weapon was a small knife he had bought at a store 3 months before the crime. After Kota's confession, the police used the investigation results to reconstruct the sequence of events. Each month, Kota had to send living expenses to his mother and son back in his hometown, leaving him in financially difficult conditions. When Kota accidentally saw the cloth bag that the Tetsuo family used to store their wages, he decided to steal it. Early in the morning on the day of the incident, Kota quietly left the dormitory while his roommate was asleep, put on a black raincoat, and sneaked out, crossing a railway line to reach Tetsuo's house. Kota then climbed over the wall into the yard, unexpectedly being discovered by Tetsuo. The two got into a fight, resulting in an injury to Kota's left hand. Seeing that the situation was not in his favor, Kota drew a knife and stabbed Tetsuo. After that, Kota sneaked into the house, being familiar with its layout as he had been invited over by Tetsuo before. Kota slowly approached a room and targeted the family's daughter. Then, Kota went to the master bedroom, where the mother and youngest son were sleeping. Chico, upon seeing Kota, opened the safe and took out 3 bags of money, throwing them at Kota and asking him to leave immediately. However, before Chico could finish her sentence, Kota rushed at her. He grabbed the 3 bags of money and ran to the back door. He tried to get out, but the bags got stuck in the door gap. Kota consolidated the 3 bags into one. Taking advantage of the darkness, he returned to the factory. When he reached the warehouse, he took some gasoline from an 18-liter canister and brought it back to the crime scene, pouring it on the 4 victims and setting them on fire. Afterward, Kota sneaked back to the dormitory, and when the fire alarm sounded, he ran out with everyone else. 2.5 months later, a local postal worker discovered a letter sent to the Shiroizumi police station. The envelope had no stamp and no signature. The letter was then forwarded to the police. Inside, the envelope were 18 burnt banknotes, totaling 50,700 yen. However, the sender's identity and address were unknown, but the burnt banknotes matched the missing money from the Tetsuo family. 4 months later, the case was brought to trial at the Shizuoka District Court, with Kota charged with robbery and murder. At the trial, Kota's confession was presented as evidence. However, unexpectedly, during the trial, he retracted his statement, claiming his innocence and that he had been coerced into signing the confession. According to police records, during the 19 days of Kota's interrogation, they questioned him for a total of 240 hours, averaging 12 hours per day. According to the law, coerced confessions cannot be considered evidence, thus the trial was postponed. A year after the incident, a factory worker found a bag containing 5 blood-stained clothing items in a fermentation tank at the warehouse. The bag contained matches and gauze, and the police noted that Kota had a bandage on his left middle finger after the incident. However, Kota was wearing pajamas and a raincoat during the crime. So, whose blood-stained clothes were these? Forensic results showed that the items had blood groups A, B, and AB. This led the police to believe that the blood on the 5 pieces of clothing belonged to the 3 remaining victims: Tetsuo, blood group A, Chieko, blood group B, and Yaichiro, blood group AB. To prove that the 5 pieces of clothing belonged to Kota, the police visited his hometown in Shizuoka. In a drawer at his house, they found a piece of fabric with a cut, identified as the same type of fabric as the blood-stained pants in the bag. Additionally, in Kota's bedroom, the police discovered a pair of green underwear, identical to the underwear found among the 5 blood-stained pieces. Kota's mother confirmed that she had bought this type of underwear for her son. Kota's colleagues also testified that they had seen him washing similar underwear. 9 months after the first trial, the second trial took place. In court, the prosecutor requested to change the physical evidence, explaining that the newly found 5 pieces of clothing were the ones Kota wore during the crime. After committing the crime, he returned to the dormitory to change out of the bloody clothes into pajamas. But to conceal the evidence, he wore the raincoat from the warehouse to the crime scene. However, the defense argued that the prosecutor's act of changing key evidence during the trial was questionable, suggesting that the clothing might not belong to the defendant, but could be fabricated evidence by the prosecutor and the police. To verify whether the clothes belonged to Kota, the 3 judges requested Kota to try them on directly, and the results showed that none of them fit. In response, the prosecutor argued that the clothes had shrunk after being soaked in the fermentation tank for a year, and that Kota had gained weight since his arrest. After 2 years of trials, the Shizuoka District Court declared Kota guilty of robbery and murder, sentencing him to death. Kota did not accept the verdict and continuously appealed to the Tokyo High Court and the Supreme Court 6 times, but all were rejected. 14 years later, the Supreme Court confirmed Kota's death sentence. After the trial concluded, Kota was held at the Tokyo Detention Center awaiting execution. However, one person who believed in Kota's innocence from the beginning was his sister, Gu Tianshu. Since the incident, she had tirelessly fought for her brother and remained unmarried. Another person who believed Kota was innocent was Mr. Dao, one of the 3 judges who sentenced him to death at the time. During the trial, the other 2 judges found Kota guilty, but Mr. Dao disagreed. After the trial, he felt immense guilt and resigned from his position as a judge, later becoming a law professor. Together, Shu and Mr. Dao used every means possible to gather evidence, collaborating with others who also believed in Kota's innocence to seek a retrial. They spent a great deal of effort and money, uncovering several clues that could overturn the physical evidence presented by the prosecutor, proving it was all fabricated. They argued that among the 5 pieces of clothing, the pants did not have many bloodstains, but the inner shirt had a lot, and both the pants and inner shirt had blood group A, while the underwear had both blood group A and B, which was clearly unreasonable. Furthermore, the wound on Kota's right thigh was sustained during a health check after his arrest and detention. This could indicate that Kota might have been tortured to confess. 48 years after the incident, Judge Murayama of the Kogane District Court decided to reopen the trial. Given Kota's health condition and age, Judge Murayama declared the death sentence annulled and ordered his release. Thus, after 48 years of imprisonment, Kota, at 78 years old, was freed to the anticipation of his 81-year-old sister. This was his first time stepping out of prison and reintegrating into society. Immediately after his release, Mr. Kota was taken to a hospital in Tokyo for treatment for 2 months. For over 40 years, not knowing when his death sentence would be carried out, he suffered from chronic insomnia and was constantly haunted by endless fear and persistent nervous tension, leading to deteriorating mental health, occasional hallucinations, and rambling. After being discharged from the hospital, Mr. Kota and his sister returned to their hometown. Though emaciated, with white hair and mental illness, his eyes still showed a strong desire to live freely. Regarding the Tetsuo family murder case, if Mr. Kota wasn't the perpetrator, many are wondering who the real culprit might be. This long-standing case has drawn public attention in Japan, with several unusual points emerging, such as the complex relationships within the victim's family and the conflicts between Tetsuo and his son. According to the victim's father, Tetsuo had a personality that easily angered others. Next was the condition of the victim's injuries. Among the 4, the wife and daughter suffered the most severe injuries, not only being stabbed multiple times, but also having several cuts on their faces. According to criminal psychology, facial injuries usually indicate deep-seated resentment from the perpetrator. Thus, the real target of the perpetrator might not have been Mr. Tetsuo, but his wife and daughter. From this, the eldest daughter became a suspect. Just 2 days after she was released from a detention center in Tokyo, she was found dead at home, with many believing she committed suicide out of fear of exposure. It was known that her relationship with her parents was strained. In high school, she got involved with gangs and didn't heed her parents' advice, leading them to kick her out of the house. Consequently, her mother showered all her affection on the younger daughter, even buying her an expensive piano, which made her resent her mother and sister. Some speculated that on the night of the incident, she had an accomplice. Since the case remains unsolved, it has become famous and is known as the greatest miscarriage of justice in Japanese history. From this case, we can see many strange coincidences pointing to Kota. If he truly wasn't the culprit, perhaps someone intentionally framed him. Due to this, and the lack of evidence proving Kota's innocence, the police detained him for many years. Although Kota is now free, the mystery of the case remains unsolved. If you were to hear this case, would you think the culprit was Kota or someone else? Please leave a comment below to let us know.